Okay, so we're on Sanhedrin, chapter 10, 87-83. We ended off last time talking about the Zaken Mamre. So this is a guy who has the official smicha, and he goes against the Sanhedrin Hagadol, right? And he paskins against them. And we had a machloket, in what cases does he paskin against them that he becomes a Zaken Mamre? And Rabbi Meir said, in cases that he's chayev karet, if he does it on purpose, and he is chayev chatat, if he did it b'shogeg, did it inadvertently. And then we had another opinion that as long as it's sourced in the Torah, and then another opinion, even if he goes against anything they say, he would consider it as akin mamre. We saw from the Rambam that the halacha is like Rabbi Meir. He has to go against them in a case of if he did it on purpose, chayiv karet, and if he did it by accident, it would be a shogeg that would be you have to bring a chatat. Okay, so now the Gemara says Amar le Rav Huna on top of the right side, right, the right column, 87-83. Amar le Rav Huna bar Chanina le Rava. Tagem elila ha matnita ali b'derimeir. We brought a whole braita, and in the braita we said, there's a whole pasuk that tells us the cases of when he comes Zaken Mamre, in cases of Makot, right? In case of Makot, he becomes Zaken Mamre if he goes against the Beit Din. In a case of what's it called? Of Nida, in the cases of Mamon, in cases of Tzarat. So the Rav Huna says, how do you have cases about Tzarat, cases of Makot, cases of paying money that lead to karet? According to the mayor, all these cases to be about karet. How do you have karet in these cases? So Amele Rava Rav Papa Puk Targame lay. So Rava said to his student Rav Papa, go ahead and answer the question and interpret the Braita according to the Meir for Rav Huna, who's asking this question. So now really what's going to happen is the rest of this Gemara today is going to go back to that Braita we saw last week to explain it according to Rabbi Meir that each case has to do with the case of karet. Okay, so we start off ki palei. Oh, this means mufla. It means that we're talking about a mumcha, someone who's an expert judge, someone who has smicha. This we know already. Okay, now the first case was mimecha. Mimecha, the pasuk says, ki mimecha. Mimecha, what the Braita says, ze yoetz sheodea le'abir shanim v'lekboa chodashim. This is somebody who knows how to make a leap year, and someone knows how to set up the months. When to be full, when to be empty, or when to be full, when to be a short month, 29, 30, right? Someone knows how to add an extra month for the Adar. Someone, he goes against in this case. Now, how do you have a case when you add a month that leads to karet? Kiditnan, like we learned. Ha'idu. Shema abirim et hashana kol Adar. And then Shahayu Omrim Adapurim. Oh, so there's a machloket. When can you make a second Adar? By when you have to make the second Adar? According to one opinion, you can make the second Adar all of Chodesh Adar. Even after Purim started, Purim ended, and it's already the last day, except the last day, but the second to last day of Adar, and you can make another whole Chodesh Adar. And according to another opinion, in the Gemara brings down in Masechet Ediot, that you can only make it until Purim. If you didn't make it by Purim, people already start preparing for Pesach, and they're not going to believe you that it's pushed off. So you have to do it by Purim time. So now, this is the machloket. This is the case, says Rav Papa. Rav Meir, the Hila Gisa, Kashara Chametz Pesach, the Lahai Gisa, Kashare Chametz Pesach. Because the Zaken Mamre is arguing, can you make an Adar after Purim? So he might say that the Chachamim is saying a Pesach is not Pesach, and therefore you can eat Chametz on that Pesach. And if you eat Chametz on Pesach, it leads to Karet. That is the case. The Zaken Mamre is arguing with Sanhedrin Gadol about adding an extra month to the year, at after Purim time, and it can lead to karet because someone can be eating chametz Pesach, and that is how Rav Meir understands this case. Okay, the next piece in the Braita, the pasuk says, "Ki palemimecha davar." Davar, we said zehalacha. Zehalacha, we said halacha means Moshe Sinai. Halacha Moshe Sinai. So where do you have halacha Moshe Sinai that leads to the onish of karet? Okay, so now we're going to have to take a moment to understand what is going on over here. This is really note 36 in the art scroll and note 38. But I like the way the Mitzvah Gemara deals with this, so I'm going to bring it from here. Lock the door, okay? Hold on. Haroeh dam, isha haroeh dam, harehu nida v'tim'ah shiva yamin. Now, you're going to have to, for a moment, forget about the halachot as we know it today. We're going to now talk the biblical halachot of nida. Today, the way nida works is different because now, as long as the woman still has blood, they wait 7 clean days before they go to the mikvah. That is not biblical, okay? From the Torah itself, it's not the way it works. Rather, a woman has 7 days of nidah. And as long as she starts bleeding by those 7 days, okay? So she has 7 days. If she stopped bleeding within those 7 days, she doesn't have to wait 7 clean days from that day that she stopped bleeding. She goes to mikvah after 7 days. 7 days is nidah. That's it. Now, after those 7 days, you have 11 days that are called Yemei Ziva. These are the days of Ziva. Okay? So really, it's an 18-day cycle. 7 days of Nidah. Okay? Anytime she has blood during that time, she's in Nidah. And after the 7 days, she can go to mikvah as long as she's not bleeding. And she's right away mutar to her husband. But during those 11 days, she has to watch. She might become a Ziva. Okay? If she sees blood on 1 or 2 days, she's called a Zava Kitana. She's called a small Zava. What does she have to do? She has to make sure she doesn't see 1 more day of blood, because if she has it 3 days in a row, she becomes a Zava Gedola, who has different halachot. So Zava Kitana, she saw 1 or 2 days. The 3rd day she waited, she saw no blood. She could go mikvah any time of that day, and then at night, she'll be mutar to her husband. Now, but if she saw 3 days of blood during those 11 days, she becomes what's called a Zava Gedola. Now, if you become a Zava Gedola, now you have to count 7 clean days. So the only time you have to count 7 clean days is if you become a Zava Gedola. That means within the 11-day period, after the 7 days of Nidah, you had 3 days of blood. All right? And the 8th day, she brings a korban, and after the korban, she goes to the mikvah. Okay? Now, there is a special halacha Moshe Sinai. Okay? The halacha Moshe Sinai is that if she saw blood on the 11th day, she doesn't have to wait a day in order to go to the mikvah. So we said usually a Zava Kitana, she has 1 or 2 days of blood. She has to wait 1 day clean, and then she goes to the mikvah. She moves to her husband. We say if it's the 11th day, halacha Moshe Sinai says she doesn't have to wait another day. She can go to the mikvah as long as she stopped bleeding that day. She can go to the mikvah and right away mutar to her husband. What is the reason? Because why do you wait a day? The reason why she waits a day within those 11-day period, if she has any blood, she waits it to see if she's going to become a Zava Gedolah. So she has 3 days in a row, she becomes Zava Gedolah. Now on the 11th day, if she sees blood on the 12th day, well, 12th day is not related to the 11th day. The 12th day starts already a new also it's not considered the Ziva period. It's already considered a new Nida cycle. Okay? So you cannot connect the 11th to the 12th day. Therefore, you don't have to wait the 12th day because it's not connected. So right away you can go to mikvah and that's it. The question becomes, and this is the machloket we're going to see, the machloket is by the 10th day. Okay, why is it machloket here? The 10th day, does she have to wait the 11th day before she goes to the mikvah? Or do we say, since it's the 10th day, she can never have 3 in a row, because 10, 11, by the time she gets to the 12th day, 12th day is already a new nida period. It's not considered zavag gedolah anymore. So maybe just like the 11th day, you can go to mikvah right away. 10th day you also can go. Or, no, when you have another day, you have to wait another day. It's within the cycle. You have to wait another day. That's the machloket. So now you can take a look. Hilchot ahadasa, the halacha of the 11 days, the itman. As we taught, asiri, when it comes to the 10th day, Yochanan Amar, asiri kiyom tish'i. The 10th day is like the 9th day, right? If it happened on the 9th day, 9, 10, 11, she could become a zavag gedolah, right? So the 10th is like the 9. You have to wait a day. No, it's like the 11th day. Yochanan Amar, tish'i, like the 9th day, my tish'i ba'eshimur. Just like the 9th day, you need to wait another day. Ap asiri ba'eshimur. So too, by the 10th, you have to wait a day. You have to make sure no blood. Asiri the 10th day is like the 11th day. Ma just like the 11th day. Halacha Moshe Mishinai says you can never get to Zavag gedolah, therefore you can go to mikvah right that day. Well, Asiri lo ba'ishimur. So too, the 11th, the 10th day, you also cannot become a Zavag gedolah. So therefore, you don't have to wait another day. Right away, go to the mikvah. Now, if the Zaken Mamrei argues on this case, so Sanhedrin Gadol says she has to wait a day, right? She's zavat, she cannot be with her husband, and he says you don't have to wait. Then guess what? He's having her be with her husband when she's a zavat, and zavat is like nida. That it is if you're with a zavat, just like when you're with a nida, it's a issue of karet, hayib karet, right? So therefore, it is a case of halacha Moshe Misinai that leads to a case of karet if it is done on purpose, or hatat if it's done b'shogeg. Okay. The next pasuk said, "Ki poem mechad davar mishpat." Mishpat. What do we say? Mishpat means zehadin. This is the gezerah shava. There's a halacha gezerah shava that, according to the mayor, will lead to chayav karet. So, what is this case? Din bito ma'anusoto. This is if the person has relations with his daughter who is not his wife's daughter. Okay. Now, what's the issue? We saw this Gemara already multiple times. The Torah never ever says that you're not allowed to be a person not allowed to be with his own daughter. The Torah says you're not allowed to be with your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter. The Torah then says you cannot be with your wife's daughter, but it never says you can't be with your own daughter. Okay, so where do we learn it from? The Amarava Amalira Litchabaradimi Atya Hena Hena Atya Zima Zima. We have a two-way Gezerah Shava, right? We have one pasuk that tells us in Vayikra, your granddaughters you're not allowed to be with, okay? And then another pasuk that says you're not allowed to be with your wife and her daughter, right? Just like you're not allowed to be with your wife's granddaughter from the son or from the daughter. And it says there Sha'ara Hena Zimahi. So it says over here by the granddaughter Hena, and it says by the wife's daughter Hannah. We learn Hannah, just like you're not allowed to be with your wife's daughter, you're not allowed to be with your own daughter. Because the granddaughters are compared to daughters. Okay? Zima Zima. It says over here, She'era Hannah Zimahi, by when you person's chasron with his wife and her daughter. And then it says, man takes a woman and her mother. We saw this already. This back in the other parak. You would burn them. So now, if you don't have, in the case of a person chayav mitam of betin, but you don't have the warning, where you don't have the witnesses, what onish does he get? What punishment he gets? He gets karet. So here's a case. There is, do you learn this gezerah shava or not? Okay, do you learn this gezerah shava or not? If the zaken says you don't learn the gezerah shava, he's allowed to be with his own daughter as long as it's not his wife's daughter, right? You don't learn gezerah shava. Then you according to the chachamim, it's karet. It's a chayav srefa. So if he does it without witnesses, it's chayav karet. So here is a case of karet that's based on a gezerah shava. Okay. Then the pasuk continues and says, "Ki mishpat ben dam lidam." Ben dam lidam. What does dam lidam mean? Dam nida. Whether it's a case of dam nida, whether it's a case of dam lidam. or in the case of blood of giving birth, v'dam ziva, and the blood of a ziva. Okay, so first, dam nida. What's the case of dam nida that can lead to karet? It's a machloket that can lead to karet. So befrukta the akavya b'mahalel v'rabana. The tanya akavya b'mahalel dam hayarok akavya b'mahalel mitameh v'chachamim mitaharin. What's the case? Blood that is yarok. Okay, yarok usually when today in modern Hebrew use the word yarok, it means green. So it means green blood. However, in the Torah, when it says yarok, it doesn't necessarily mean green. It could also mean golden yellow. Okay? So basically, the woman is having a discharge, but the blood is not red. It's coming out a different color. Okay? So do we say that it's still dam nida, or we say it's not dam? It's the machoket. Kavim Halal says it is. Chachamim say it's not. So here's a machoket that the Zaken Mamrei can be arguing with whether she's a nida or not. And if she's a nida, and the person's with her, right, then it's chayiv karet. So here's a case of machloket that zaken mamrei that can lead to karet by dam nida. Okay, dam leda. When it comes to the blood of a woman giving birth, beplukta the Rav v'Levi, the itma Rav Amar ma'ayan echadhu, haTorah timato v'haTorah mitharto. Okay, before we even get into this, we have to understand the way it was in biblical times. Okay, the halachot today are different. Okay, the halachot today are different. Again, the women took upon themselves that anytime they see blood, they don't be with their husbands until they have 7 clean days. That was not the case during the time of the Torah, during the biblical times, before the Chachamim made the Gezerot. The way it worked by giving birth was it depended if you gave birth to a boy or a girl. Okay, for a boy it was 1 week that her blood that came out was tameh. Then they had 33 days of tahor. Even though she was having blood, she was considered tahor, allowed to be with her husband. Then afterwards again tameh. For a girl, it was 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks that the woman's blood would be considered tameh, and then the next 66 days were considered tahor, even though she's bleeding. Okay? And afterwards, if more blood comes, she becomes tameh. That's the way it was in biblical times. Now, what's the machloket that can lead to karet over here? Okay? Rav Amar Mayan Echadhu. Rav says this woman's blood that's coming out 14 days, and then the 66 days, 14 days we say is tameh, 66 days we say is tahor by giving birth to a girl. You should know it all comes from one place. It's all the same blood. It's the exact same blood. And the Torah says the 14 days the blood is tameh, and 66 days the blood is tahor. The Torah makes that distinction. The same blood. But the Torah makes the distinction. But Levi says, no. There's a reason. There's a reason why the Torah says this. What is it? Really, the woman has 2 sources of blood. One of them is a source that's tameh, and one of them is a source that is tahor. So, by 14 days, nistama tameh, the tameh one closes, v'niftach tahor, and the source of blood that's tahor opens and starts coming out. And then nistama tahor, and after 66 days, the tahor blood stops, v'niftach tameh, and out comes the tameh blood. Okay, so how does this machloket lead to a karet? So here's the case. Let's say the woman at 14 days, she's tameh, right? And the blood is now flowing continuously. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, just continuous blood coming out. So now, here's the machloket. If you say like Rav, that what? The Torah decides that after day 14, it's tahor. So she's tahor. She can be with her husband, even though she's bleeding continuously even at 14. But according to Levi, he said that what? After 14, it stops, and then new blood comes out, which is tahor blood. Well, guess what? It never stopped here. It's continuous. So according to Levi, she would still be tameh because it's continuous blood from that same original source. Okay, so now what happens? The Zaken Mamrei has this machoket with Sanhedrin Gadol Sanhedrin Gadol says, like Mamashal, Sanhedrin Gadol says, she is tameh, right? It's continuous flow is tameh, and he says, no, mutar. Then he's going to be with her, is mutar. But according to Sanhedrin, she is asur. So it's a case of dam, right? Being with the nida, being with the woman who is having blood. Shahaba hanida b'karet. And if he's going to be with the nida, it's karet. So here's a case of karet by dam leda. La'alach l'maisa, the Rambam says all the blood comes from the same source. Okay, well, that's from the same source. Today, it really doesn't make a difference because we don't go with what the Torah says, 14 days and then 66. Rather, the women have taken upon themselves that the halacha became as such that you have to wait 7 clean days from the last sight of blood. Okay, so a little different. Okay, another case, dam ziva. What's the case of dam ziva? The blood of a ziva. Bipukta the Rebbe Eliezer, the Rebbe Yeshua. Machok Rebbe Eliezer, Rebbe Yeshua. Detnan. וכשתה 3 ימים בתוך 11 יום. ואם שפטה, מעת לעת, ילדה, הרי זה יולדת בזו. דיבר אליעזר. וישוע אומר לילה יום, כלילי שבת ויומו. כששפטה מן הצער, ולא מן הדם. Okay. What's this case? Case is as follows. The woman was a nida, and now she's in the Yemei Ziva. She's in her 11 days. Okay? And during those 11 days, she somehow goes into labor. Okay? And she's in labor for 3 days. For 3 days, she's in labor pain. She's having labor pains. But then, and during labor pains, she was having blood. Okay? Now, but she didn't give birth at the end of the 3 days. Then 24 hours passed, and she gave birth. So, according to one opinion, according to Rebbe Eliezer, she gave birth as a Zavah Gedolah. Why? Because 3 days when she had blood, she didn't give birth right away. 24 hours passed, then she gave birth. So she already became a Zavah Gedolah because it happened within the 11 days. So now, even though she gets the week or 2 weeks of Tameh, and then she's Tohor, no, she can't be, because she has to have 7 clean days and bring a Korban, because she became a Zavah Gedolah. So she becomes a Zavah Gedolah. But according to the other opinion, Yeshua says, no. Not 24 hours. It has to be a full night and a full day, like Shabbat. 25 hours or so. Right? Full night and a full day. And then if she gave birth, a whole 25 hours passed, and then she gave birth, then it's considered she became a Zavah Gedolah. But if it happened within 24 hours, it's the pain stopped, but the blood didn't. And therefore, she's not a Zavah Gedolah. Right? So now, the Zaken Mamre, if he argues on this, right? If the Chachamim say she's Zavah Gedolah, and he says, no, she's not, right? Then what? He's allowing the man to be with the Zavah Gedolah, which is an Isser Karet. So here is a case of Machoket by Dam Zivad that can lead to Karet. Okay? Then the Pasuk continues and says, Ben Din Ledin. What do we say? Dinei Mamanot, Dinei Nefashot, Dinei Makot. Okay, start with the first one. Dinei Mamanot. Where do we have by money that can lead to a Machoket Karet? So Bepuk to Shmuel Be'abod, Amar Shmuel, Shnaim Shadonu Dineihem Din, Es Shnikraim Beitin Hatzuf. Machoket of Shmuel and Rabbi Abba. Watch. Okay, so we know that a bed din is usually 3. But let's say this guy made a 2-person bed din, right? We saw this way back in Daf Hey. Right? So 2-person bed din. So Shmuel says 2-person bed din works. Not the right thing to do, but it works. Rabbi Abba says, no, the call and din. No, it's not considered a judgment at all. Now, if they made a 2-person judgment and they took money from that person that they said was guilty, right? That money, is it really this other person's money now? All right, so Machoket, Shmuel says it is. Rabbi says it's not. Now, let's say he goes and he uses that money to be Mekadesh a woman, right? In order to be Mekadesh a woman, it has to be your money. But if it's not your money, because Rabbi says it's not yours, because you didn't know, it was wrong bad thing, that's not right, so then it's not your money. And then you weren't Mekadosh the woman. But according to Shmuel, they are. And then she'd be also to anyone else because you Mekadosh her, you gave her Kiddushin. So what happens? Remember, if a person is with an Eshet Ish, if you go with a married woman, it's Chayiv Karet. If it's done without witnesses, right? So here you have a question: Machoket Ishi and Eshet Ish or not? So if he says no, and the Chavis say yes, then this is a case of Karet that can lead to Karet, and this is the case. So Meir would understand as Dine Mamon. Okay, what about Dine Nefashot? Bepukta Rabbi Rabbanan. Machoket Rabbi and Rabbanan. The Tanya, Rabbi, Yehuda Anasi. He's talking about a pasuk, but Tata Nevesh Tachat Nafesh. Right? The pasukim here say two men are fighting, and the woman comes on to stop them. Okay? If they knock her and they knock out her fetus, they have to pay for the fetus. But if they kill her, it says Nefesh Tachat Nafesh. The Chachamim understand this to mean that he's going to be killed, even though he intentioned to kill the guy, but he killed the woman instead. Still, he's a murderer. He's going to be put to death. But the Rabbi of Yehuda Anasi comes and says, no, he has to give money. I would think only maybe really kill him. But it says if you knock out her fetus, you pay for it. But and it says over here, now tata nefesh tachat nefesh uses the same lashon of netina. Mala hala maman, avkad maman. So to here is money. So now what happens in this case? Chacham say no, he doesn't owe you money. If they chayam mita, so let's say they paskin like Rebbe, and they took the money. Does this money belong to the Yorshim, to the inheritors, right, of this woman? And can they use that money to make kiddushin? Okay, according to Rebbe, yeah, the money belongs to her. The kiddushin is chala. She's whoever he uses now to mikadosh someone with that money, it works. According to the Chachamim, no, the money was never owed to them. It's not your money, and it's stolen money. You can't use stolen money to mikadosh someone. So therefore, she is not. If you use this to mikadosh someone, she's not considered married. So now, safek kiddushin, safek no kiddushin. If she's married, chayav karet, and someone else is with her. So this is a case of nefashot that leads to mamon that might be yours, might not be yours. And based on that, if you marry someone with that money, it can be safek karet. And if the Zakim Amway says it's not, okay, here we go, another case. It's chayav karet. That's the way every mayor will learn this part of the Braita. What about Dinei Makot? What's the case by Makot that can lead to karet? Bepukta Bishma Rabbanan. Ditran, Makot Bishlosha. Mishum Rabbi Shmael Amru, Ve'eslim Shlosha Dayanim. Machloket. How many people you need in order to give somebody Makot, in order to punish someone with Makot? The one opinion says 3. The other opinion says 23. So Machloket, right? So now let's say 3 people gave. 3 people was in court, and they said, give this guy Makot. And they gave him Makot. Okay? So now, did they do right or not? So if you hold it 3, yeah, that's fine. But if they didn't, if you're not allowed to do it, you have to be 23, then you make them pay for the damages they caused this guy, for the hurt, the pain. They weren't allowed to do it. Now, this money that this guy takes from them, does it belong to him? Well, it depends. If 3 couldn't do it, then the money belongs to him. If the 3 could do it, then the money doesn't belong to him. So it's a safek. And now if he goes ahead and he uses that money to mikadosh a woman, is it his money or not? Did the woman get kiddushin or not? And if someone's with her, it's a machloket. Safek karet. Does he get karet or not? So here's a machloket karet by makot. If he gave makot in front of 3, was that work or not, or the people have to pay him for the damage they caused them? Okay. The next case, it says in the pasuk, benega lenega, between one nega and another nega. One is this, benega lenega, and ben nege adam, whether it's sarat on the person, nege batim, with leprosy on the house, or nege begadim, or on the clothes. Okay, nege adam. What's the case with nege adam? By leprosy on a person. Beplukta b'shuav rabbanan. Achoket b'shuav rabbanan. Ditnan. Im ba'heret kadam l'seir halavan. If the skin became discolored before the hair turned white, tameh. It's tameh. Skin then here. Im se'ar lavan kadam b'heret. But if the hair turned white before the skin became discolored, tahor. Now, what about safek? I don't know. The hair turned white or the skin, I don't know which one happened. So here, safek tameh. Rabbi Shua omer kaha. Ma kaha? Amrava kaha tahor. So now we have here. We don't know if the hair turned white first or not. So safek. Now, what would be the difference? You're not allowed to walk into the mikdash if you are a mitzorah. You have tzarah. So here, if the guy walks in the mikdash based on the zakim Mamay saying you're not mitzorah, you don't have tzarah, the Chachamim say it is. That's a case of karet. If mitzorah walks into the mikdash, his punishment is karet. So here's a case of karet by nege adam. What about nege batim? Beplukta Rabbi Lazar Rabbi Shimon Rabbanan. Nachoket. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbanan. Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Shimon, Omer, Lo'ol ben Abayit Tameh Ad Shiyareh. Kishne Gerisin Lashne Avanim, B'shtei Ketarim B'Keren Zavit, or Kol Kishne Gerisin, B'Rechbo Kirgis. Right? It has to be a certain amount. 2 Grisim by 1 Geris in the corner. That's how much it has to be green or red in the house. My Tama. The Rabbi Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon say? It has to be in the corner. Shektiv, it says in one pasuk, kir. And then it says, ukriot, ukirot, wall, and then it says walls. There's ukir. Where do you have a wall that looks like walls? And the Omer, ze keren zavit. The Rabbanan argue, and they say, no, it doesn't have to be on the corner. So if the Zakim Mamre says, oh, it has to be on the corner, Chachamim say, no, it doesn't have to be in the corner. And now, based on the Zakim Mamre, he goes to the Mikdash, even though it wasn't on the corner, it's going to be considered nega tzarat. He's going to be now tameh, and he's walking into the mikdash as he's tameh, and he's chayav karet. So here's a case of karet, and Zakim Amrei is allowing this, and this leads to the case of karet according to Rimeir by a nega tzarat on the house. What about nege bagadim, where you have karet by beged? The pukta Rabbi Natan ben Avtulamos v'Rabbanan. The Tana Rabbi Natan ben Avtulamos omer menayin lepicha begedim shitorah. How do I know if the entire beged has tzarat? It's tar shnema kafat v'gebacha ba'adam v'amat kafat v'gebacha begedim malahalim perach bekulo tahor avkam parach bekulo tahor. Okay, he says we have a pasuk that says if a man is completely mitzorah from head to toe, completely discolored from head to toe, he has tzarat, but he's tar. Okay? He's tar. He says, I have a gezer shavah that compares it to bigadim. Therefore, a beged it's completely with a tzarat, leprosy, it is mutar. And the Rabbanan argue on this. Okay? So the Rabbanan arguing this, the Rabbanan says, not tahor. And the Sanhedrin agrees with that. The Zakim Amrei goes with this, that it is tahor, and sends the guy wearing it or after touching it to the mikdash. Again, tameh in the mikdash, chayev karet. Here's a machloket by beged tzarat that can lead to karet that the Rabbi Meir was talking about. Then the pasuk said divrei, the words. What are these words? Elo harachin va'choramim va'hektashot. These are the erech values that we saw in this past week's parasha, an erech value, how much everybody's worth at a certain age and a certain gender. Elo harachin va'choramim. Choramim are cherim. We'll talk about it. The hekdishot, and giving something to hekdish. Okay, what's the case for arichin? B'plukta Rabbi Meir v'Rabbanan. Machloket Rabbi Meir and Rabbanan. The Tanan hamarich mechodesh. The Torah says the baby is a month and old. That's how much it's going to be worth. How much money you have to give. But this guy says the value of my baby before it's a month, right? 2 weeks old. The value of my baby. What did he say? Rabbi Meir Omer noted them up. Okay, there's no erech value because the Torah doesn't list that at that point. So give the money what this baby would be worth on the marketplace. He didn't say anything at all. Now, how does this lead to karet? Now, let's say that they come and collect it from the person. And then the guy came and took it back. And now he went to be Mekadesh a woman with this. Okay? Does it work or not? According to Rabbi Meir, that money belongs to the Beit HaMikdash because he said my erech value, and he means the price of the marketplace. And the Chachamim say, no, it was nothing, and therefore the money does work as kiddushin. So again, Does this money work for kiddushin or not? Did the erech value work or not? And that's a machloket. And if you marry, if the woman is married or not, it could lead to a safek of karet if she is with somebody else. Charamim. What's the case of charamim? Someone says something is cherem. What does he mean by that? Okay, according to one opinion, according to one opinion, it has to go straight to the Beit Hamikdash, meaning it's hektish. Shnei kol cherem kol kedoshim hu laHashem. Charamim say stam charamim lakohen. No, it goes to the kohen. Shneimar ti kisadeh cherem lakohen ti achuzato. Im kein ma tamid lomar kodesh kedoshim hu laHashem. Where's the kodesh kedoshim Hashem? Kal kodesh kodesh v'kodesh kodesh. The kodesh kodesh. It goes that he can go on kodesh 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 kodesh. Someone says, I'm going to bring a carbon. But until then, right, he says cherem, it goes to it works and it goes to the kohen. Now, how does this lead to karet? A person says something is cherem and then he takes hana from them. According to the B'mitera, he says it goes to the mikdash, so then he's taking from the mikdash. He's taking from the mikdash. And the Meiri explains, can he now use that to mikadosh a woman? You said cherem. It goes to the mikdash. So if it goes to the mikdash, you can't use it. It's not yours. So the woman's not married. But if it's the kohen's, and the kohen goes and uses it, is it his? Can I have a non use something else to pay the kohen? Whatever it is, that money could belong to that person, and he can give it. And therefore, kedushin would be chal. So machloket, can kedushin work or not based on this money? Is it belong to the hegdish or not? And that can lead to karet or not based on the woman being mekadosh or not. Okay. Next case, the lead to karet, hekdashot. Giving something for hegdish. The Tanya ben Yaakov, I feel it's rashel hegdish, even a fork from the hegdish. Tzimcha asra ben adam liftota. You need 10 people to be podeh. Podeh means to redeem it, to give the money instead of the fork. The guy wants the fork from the hegdish, he has to give the money. You need 10 people to appraise it. But there's another opinion that says all what you need is 3. Okay? Now, the person redeemed it with 3. Did it work? According to Ben Yaakov, no, it didn't. You need 10. According to that opinion, it did. So is it hektish or not? And if you mekadosh a woman with that hektish, says the Meiri, okay, you mekadosh a woman with this hektish, does it work or not? Does she become an eshes is that chayiv karet, someone's with her or not? Because if it still belongs to the hektish, you need 10. So then it didn't work. She's not eshes and she's not chayiv karet, someone's with her. But if it did work, because 3 does work, then it is. So if he argues in this case, it is the case of chayiv karet by hektish. Okay. Now, rivot. Says in the pasuk, rivot. Zo hashka'at sota, varifat ha'egla, v'taharat mitzorah. Case of the sota, the egla rufa, and the mitzorah. Okay. What's this? Hashka'at sota. What's the case by sota? The Tran, we taught, we learned the Mishnah. Someone who warns his wife from the Yazor Mekane al Pishanayim. You need to warn her in front of 2. Mashka, you can make her drink once you see her secluding al pi edechan or al pi atzmo himself or one aid. Rishua Emer Mekane al Pishanayim. No, you need to warn her in front of 2. The Mashka al Pishanayim. You need 2 witnesses to say that she secluded herself with this man. Okay, so you need to have 2. Now, how does this have to deal with ketubah? What does that have to do with karet? Okay, it has to do with the ketubah. If a man warns his wife and she refuses to drink, right, then she cannot collect the ketubah. Here, one witness sees it. Okay, she refuses to drink. Does she get the ketubah or not? Right? According to one opinion, she doesn't, because she's allowed to drink. She's supposed to drink already. Because all she needs is 1 witness. According to the other opinion, she needs 2 witnesses. So she's not chayav to drink. So therefore, if she says, I'm not drinking, she's not chayav to drink. And therefore, her ketuvah still belongs to her. So if she sold her ketuvah to somebody, right, and she takes the money, does that money belong to her or not? And does the money go to somebody else? Because According to one opinion, all you need is one witness, and there is. So she doesn't get the ketubah. She refuses to drink. According to the other opinion, no, you need two witnesses. She doesn't have that, so the money does belong to her. So if she gives that money to someone, and someone uses that money to make kiddushin on some other woman, so does it work or not? Is that money considered money, or is it not considered the money because it's not hers, right? And it's gezel, and then gezel doesn't work for kiddushin. So that's how it leads to kachayiv karet. By a case where that money from the ketuvah of the sotah is used, is that her money or not? Okay. But what about egla arufa? What's the case for egla arufa? That can lead to karet. Arifat egla. The pukta milazer Rabbi Akiva. The Tanan. Ume'ayin hemododin. The egla arufa. The guy dies, right? And outside, we don't know where he's from, so we calculate which city is closest, and they bring the whole egla arufa ceremony. But where do they calculate from? You calculate from his belly button. You calculate from his nose. As halal, which means mitzavarot. Count from his neck. Now, what plays out? Let's say if it's outside a populated area, right, with just 3 cities nearby. And every way they count, they'll get to a different city. If you start from his nose, start from his belly button, you start from his neck, will lead to a different city. And now what? They bring 3 egla arufas. And now the guy takes one of them, and he's mekadesh a woman with the value of that egla arufa. Does it work? Because if the egla arufa is supposed to be counted from the nose, and you took it from the belly button one, then guess what? It works. Because the belly button one is not the real egla arufa, and so you're allowed to have enough from it. So then it would be kiddushin. But maybe no, that's the one it is. Then maybe kiddushin doesn't chal. So it's safek eshet ish, and it could be a machloket of karet or not, and that's the case of the egla rufa. Okay, taharat mitzorah. What's taharat mitzorah? Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbanan. Machloket Rabbi Shimon v'Rabbanan. Titnan. It says in order to make a mitzorah, tahar. Part of the process is putting oil on his right ear, on his right thumb, on his right foot. But let's say ein lo b'hanyad, ve'ein lo b'yad ozen yamanit, ein lo Torah b'regel ozen yamanit, ein lo Torah olamit. Guy doesn't have his foot, doesn't have his hand, doesn't have his ear. According to one opinion, he can never become tahor. That, by the way, is the halakha. The Rambam brings down. Never become tahor. But Rabbi Eliezer Omer noten lo al mikomo. Put it where it should have been. That's enough. Rabbi Shimon Omer noten al shasimo. You don't have the right. Put it on the left side. So here we go. The guy's in Mitzorah, doesn't have a right hand, whatever it is. He can't do the purification process. Can't do it on the left. Can't do it on the spot. Right? Zaken Maimonides says, yeah, you can do it. So no more Mitzorah. He's tahor now. But according to Chachamim, you can't. And now the guy goes to the Beit HaMikdash. Right? So coming as a Mitzorah to the Mikdash is chayiv karet. Here is the case, there's a Kemamwe who argues on the case of Mitzorah that can lead to karet. That's where he can get punished for that. Okay, coming to the last set, it says in the Pasuk, Bish'arecha, in your gate. And what do we learn here? Ze leket shicha peah. Talking about cases of leket, shicha, and peah. What's leket? Leket, guy is collecting and 2 drop. It's not shnei shibolin. Leket, 2 the fall are leket. So a shot ain't a leket. 3 is not. It belongs to the owner. Doesn't belong to the poor person. Shikha, he forgot. Still money. Forgot 2. Okay. It's shikha. It's considered forgotten. Belongs to the poor person. Shlosha and a shikha. But if it's 3, it's not shikha. Belongs to the owner. Va'al kulam. But that's Beit Hillel. But Beit Shammai omrim. Shalosh, even if it's 3, whether it's leket or shikha, le'ani, belongs to the poor person. Only if it's 4, lebal habayit. Okay, so that's the machloket. So at the third one, does it belong to the poor person or not? If the poor person uses it for kiddushin, or if the owner uses it for kiddushin, who does it belong to? The machloket. So it might work. It might work for kiddushin. It might not, because it might be his. It might not be his. So here's a case, a machloket karet or not. If it uses it for an eshet, if it uses it to mekadosh a woman, does it become an eshet ish or not? Peah. Now we come to the last one of this sugya. Peah. When it comes to Peah, Bipluktad Rebishma Rabbanan. Tanan, we learned in a Mishnah that what? Mitzvah Peah, the mitzvah Peah, lahafrish minakama. When it's still standing, you have to give it. When the produce is standing in the field. Lo hifrish, you didn't give him minakama when it's standing. Yafish min omari. Give it when you already cut it. Lo hifrish, when it was cut, min omarin. Yafrish min akeri. When it's already collected, you let it. You give payah from there. As long as you didn't smooth it over. Menecho, once you smooth it over, you give maaser first, and then afterwards you give payah. Because if you would give payah, the amount of payah to the ani when it still needs maaser, that means the ani has to give maaser, so he won't get his full amount of payah. Therefore, you give the maaser, and then you give it. But mishur mishmal amru ap mefrish minahista. Even if you made it into dough, meaning you took the wheat and you now grind it into flour and you made it into dough, and you didn't give payah yet, you give payah from this. But the Rabbanan say, no. Once you grounded the wheat, it became a different thing. It changed. Davar shinui, the shinui davar. You change the thing, and therefore there's no more chiyuv of payah, and it doesn't belong to the poor person. So it turned to flour. And this guy now uses it, the owner uses it for kiddushin, or the poor person uses it for kiddushin. Who does it belong to, poor or the owner? And it's a machloket, Mishmael, and the Rabbanan. And therefore, if the Zaken takes an opinion, one side, and he says he could use it, then according to the opinion, it's not. And it's chayiv karet. Is the woman married or not? Right? If you use it for kiddushin, is the woman married or not? And so it's a safek eshet ish, which is a case that can lead to karet. That's the case. So now it says the Mesifta, we end up the case. Nimtzim came with Papa. The way Papa explained this Braita. So call Braita, Shiki Palesh Nemr El. He Shita Rabbi Meir is the Rabbi Meir Shita. Hasov Shen Zaken Asem Mamre Elim Kin Holek Al Devar Shezono Karet. Shkiko Hatat. The only time he comes Zaken Mamre, he argues on a case that if he did it on purpose, it's Karet, and if he did it by accident, it is a case of Hatat. And we proved it, and that's the way that Rambam passes the halachas. Zaken Mamre, only if he argues in a case that Chayiv Karet, if it's done on purpose, Chayiv Hatat, if it's done b'shogeg. Okay, so we'll end over here for this week. Toda rabah. It was a compilation of a lot of different halachot that was put together in one sugya, but it was a beautiful job. Thank you.
Moral of the story?
Moral of the story: don't argue with the Sanhedrin Agadol.
No, not that. If the money was involved with something else, I guess cannot use it for a different reason.
That's right. You have to make sure that the matzah they ask him is your money, right?
Nobody,
is it yours?
Nobody asked this when you're getting married about that.
They asked. I hear it all the time. Is it yours? They say. Is it yours?
Yeah, but it's mine. Both monies are mine. But if it was used for a different reason, it cannot be used for a different.
If it's yours, then you're saying it's really mine. I think that's what they're saying. Is it yours?
That is not involved with other.
Right.
Other
is it really yours, or does it belong? Maybe perhaps it belongs to the ani, right, or something like that. Right. When they say that, I mean,
I don't know if the Hatan is aware of that. When the question.
Very good. All right. Toda rabah, Shavua tov. Thank you.